Welcome back to another Disorderly Reviews. Today we're reviewing the MX Ergo Advanced Wireless Trackball from Logitech. Feel free to scan the QR code if you'd like more information on this product. My original trackball that I've used for years is beginning to stop working. A fault that many of these have is the left click button will begin to not be able to hold down, and so it will double click often when you're intending to hold or even single click. Other than that, I've tend to like Logitech trackballs. I've had them since the 90s. Funny thing is, the older trackballs from the 90s tend to not have this double click issue. I've been through a couple of these newer ones recently. So when I want to replace this, I thought I'd upgrade because, of course, I have a lot of disorders that make using trackballs a necessity. Less wrist movement, less hand movement and forearm movement. They're really about the best mouse I know of. So I looked into buying an MX Ergo because supposedly it has a lot of ergonomic importance and new options for people with disabilities and the desire to have their physical needs adapted to. The Ergo is a unique mouse. It has, as you can see here, two different settings for how it can be tipped, the classic flat or a new, more comfortable angle. And I will agree that the angle itself is quite comfortable. It's a more natural than the flat-handed angle that most mice are and trackballs are at. There's a few button options on this mouse. It can be either Bluetooth or use the unified receiver from Logitech. I love the unified receivers. You can have multiple Logitech devices on the same computer with only one dongle. But I prefer Bluetooth because I find it to be more responsive and you don't need a dongle at all. So on things like a laptop, that's a great benefit. It also has a four-way roller, up, down, and left and right. Supposedly this is supposed to work with Adobe and other apps. I haven't found it to work with the apps that I use, including my video app. So for me, it's just a simple roller. Of course, the classic forward and back buttons for browsing on the internet, always nice. And a small button here for increasing the DPI, which essentially, in my experience, looked like it broke down how quickly the mouse moved to like 10%. So it was a lot of movement to get it to go across the screen, which for me isn't really useful. It might be for people who have a more shaky or difficult interaction with mice like this and don't have such smooth movements. That might be a real benefit, but that's a setting that can be adjusted in Windows itself. A couple of other things that I've noticed about this. It has a very smooth base, where the Classic had three different little tabs to grip on to the desk. Now, there's a benefit and a disadvantage to that. Like you can see here, my desk isn't exactly flat, and this mouse slides fairly easily, where the previous one doesn't. I would think if you had a very genuinely smooth and glassy desk, it would not slide so much. But because it's all one thing and doesn't really have any separate grips, it tends to slide over uneven surfaces. I noticed that to be true. So if you need a really solid mouse base, you may want to look into, I don't know, adjusting the base here, adding some of your own grip or Velcro, which is what I tend to do to things, or look elsewhere. The mouse is dramatically heavier than the classic Logitech. It it feels girthy and weighty and solid, which is great. There's a couple of other things that I like and dislike about this mouse. First thing that I dislike is that it's a lithium-ion battery, which, in my opinion, causes more waste and obsoletes the mouse after 2 or 3 years of use, no matter what, because they only charge about 1,000 times. However, it's supposed to have like a month's worth of charge each time you charge it. So maybe that lifetime gets extended out 5 or 6 years, which is probably more than most of these will last anyhow with that clicking issue. But maybe they've improved that as well. Another option, you can have this connect to 2 different devices. So if you have 2 computers, like a laptop and a video editing computer, you can switch between the two by using the Bluetooth and the unifying receiver, which is pretty neat for people who have really demanding and complex work environments. One thing I found to be a big disadvantage was the size of the right click. I often find myself clicking down in this area where there isn't anything to click. I feel like my fingers have to be very tight together in order to use this mouse effectively. And that's a little weird to me that they didn't expand that out or kind of make it a bigger, more angled. My hand tends to want to angle this way, even on this when it's tipped. So I tend to want to use buttons like this, which the old one had. The buttons on the old one have kind of a natural finger curve positioning, where these are very straight, and I found myself not clicking on that. I wanted to show you the size of my hand. I have a pretty standard hand, large hand, you know, because the one thing that really bothers me about this mouse is when I'm using it, I feel like I'm palming a large basketball. And even after 5 or 10 minutes of using this mouse, my hand gets like this stretch fatigue almost. I don't know if that's a good thing for my hand to be experiencing, but I've never had what I would call hand pain apart from maybe joint pain. Most of my pain is in my forearms and wrist. So this is just a really oddity that I didn't expect with this mouse. I was hoping it would really feel great, but after 5 or 10 minutes, it feels like I've been trying to reach around a basketball too much, and my hand just hurts because of it. So unfortunately, this mouse for me doesn't work. But if you're interested in all the different attributes of this mouse, including the angle, which I agree is much, much better than the standard angle and easier on the wrist and forearm, I would try to find one, say at Best Buy or something. Put your hand on it and use it for about 5 or 10 minutes. Make sure these buttons are in the right spot for you. Make sure you don't get that weird stretchy fatigue that I'm experiencing, and see if it's worth it for you. But the price difference between $40 and darn near $100, I don't think is worth it. And even going back to this, my hand feels so much better than this one, which is just stretched and painful, even the amount that I've used it here for the video. So that's my review. For me, it's got to go back because I just doesn't work with my hand. But if all these benefits seem to outweigh any of the things that you're currently using, feel free to look it up and see if it would work for you. I hope that helps. You figure out if this is the right next mouse for you and your disabilities and your special needs. And I hope this little time together has given you some information on how to improve your work life and gaming life and life in general. Thank you so much for joining us at Transcendent Studios and our Disorderly Reviews. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.